Namaste, Pranam, Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva manusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim. O Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Partha. The ancient sage Vyasa included it in the Mahabharata. O Goddess, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism contained in your 18 chapters. O my affectionate mother, the destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. Krishna Vandana. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Son of Vasudeva, the slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki, O Lord Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. Our reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the 17th Adhyaya of Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga, the yoga of threefold Shraddha. And Sri Krishna has told us, already he told us about the types of foods that are so dear to the people of sattvic disposition, of the rajasic nature, and of the tamasic type of Shraddha. How these three people, types of people, what types of foods they enjoy, what types of foods they have the liking for. And then Sri Krishna also told us that how these different types of people, now what are their modes of worship, what are their modes of performing the sacrifices. And Sri Krishna in the 11th and 12th Shloka already told us about the Sattvika type and the Rajasic type. The Sattvika type, whenever they perform any spiritual activity, any sacrifice, any yajna, their aim is not to seek anything in return. They don't desire any fruit out of that activity. They don't desire any fruit out of that sacrifice as such. Their sacrifice is just as an adoration to the deity, as an adoration to the godhood, as an adoration to their Ishta Devata. That is all they need. And they perform it with full heart in it. It is done wholeheartedly with full mind focused in that activity, and the mind is not scattered anywhere else while performing that kind of sacrifice. The Rajasic, when they perform, they have in mind some kind of outcome. I must get this. And then there is a type of hypocrisy also attached, because any sacrifice which has any attachment to fruit, any desire, any sacrifice which is performed with the intention of gaining something out of it, it is hypocritical in nature. And that's what Sri Krishna said, that abhisandhaya tu phalam, but seeking the fruit while performing that sacrifice, seeking the fruit while performing the yajna, dambhartham api chaivayat. It is as good as it is a Hippocratic act. It is filled with dambha. It is filled with it is conducted as an ostentation for self-glorification. Ijjate Bharata Sreshtha tam yajñaṃ vidhihīnamasṛṣṭānnaṃ. O Bharata Sreshtha, O great among the descendants of the Bharat, this type of sacrifice is verily known as the Rajasic type, because there is some kind of expectation out of it. So, having told about the Sattvic and Rajasic type of sacrifices, the intention, Sattvic and Rajasic intentions behind performing a sacrifice, now Sri Krishna is going to tell us about the tamasic intention with which the sacrifice is conducted, or the worship is offered, or the prayers are offered. Vidhihīnamasṛṣṭānnaṃ mantrahīnamadakṣiṇam śraddhāvirahitaṃ yajñaṃ tāmasaṃ paricakṣate. Paricakṣate, that is declared as tamasic. Tāmasaṃ paricakṣate. That type of sacrifice is declared as tamasic. Now, which type? Sri Krishna has defined it in great details. Vidhihīnam. Vidhihīnam is without any proper rituals, without any proper following any proper instructions of performing that sacrifice. Just haphazard manner. The way I think I will do it. That's it. I need not follow any instructions. I need not follow any injunctions. I need not follow any ordinances for that matter while performing. Now that kind of vidhihīna, the one which is performed without any process, without any ordinance, without any injunctions. And then asṛṣṭānnaṃ. Annam asṛṣṭam. Normally what happens whenever a sacrifice is performed, whenever any spiritual act is performed, there is a distribution of some food as the prasad. Now, if any sacrifice is performed in a manner not abiding with the scriptural injunctions, and towards the end, when there is no distribution of prasad, there is no distribution of food, that asṛṣṭānnaṃ, in which food is not shared with others. The idea is, first of all, food is offered to the God. And when God partakes of it, when the deity partakes of that food, then as a prasad it is offered to all those who have gathered to attend that particular function, that particular ceremony of the sacrificial act. Now that prasad, if it is not distributed, mantrahīnam, where no mantras are chanted, there is no chanting of any hymns or any stotra or any kind of adoration to the Lord. Mantras, basically they are adoration of the deity. Now if no such mantras are chanted while performing that sacrifice, and dakṣiṇam, at the end of the sacrifice, when if no dakshina is given, if no alms are given, if no gifts are given, it is of no use. Because the entire idea of a sacrificial act is to perform that act as per the scriptural injunctions, to perform that act without any motive as such, without any gain in mind, as complete adoration of the Lord, where the food is offered to the Lord, and that food, once it gets, after it is partaken by the Lord, then it is distributed as prasada. And along with that, even the gifts and alms are given to those who have attended that particular sacrifice, that particular spiritual ritual. So if there are no gifts which are given, then that kind of sacrifice, which is śraddhāvirahitaṃ, which is devoid of any shraddha. Now Sri Krishna has told us that even shraddha is of three types: the sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. But Sri Krishna says here, even the tamasic type of shraddha is not there, if that sacrifice is conducted without any shraddha, then that sacrifice, that yajñaṃ tāmasaṃ paricakṣate, that yajna is declared as tamasic in nature, because there is no faith, there is no intense faith, that shraddha, even if it is tamasic, it is in a way good, because it is taking, that shraddha is taking us towards where there is some faith, even if it is tamasic in nature. But any sacrificial act performed without any kind of intense faith, is of no value. And Sri Krishna says such type of yajna, such type of sacrificial act is declared as tamasic in nature, which does no good at all. They declare that yajna to be tamasic, which is contrary to the ordinances, which doesn't follow the scriptural injunctions, in which no food is distributed, which is devoid of mantras, gifts, and shraddha. If these three things are missing in that particular sacrificial act, if the three things are the mantras, the hymns, the chanting of hymns, distribution of gifts, and if it is devoid of shraddha on the part of the performer of that act, so that sacrifice, that sacrificial act is declared as tamasic in nature. All goods which are conducive to public welfare are emphatically enjoined in the Shastras. Shastras, they promote all the sacrificial acts, all the rituals, all the functions for that matter, for the welfare of one and all. That is the intent behind all these rituals. Welfare of all. And welfare and emphatically enjoined in the Shastras. All these such acts, they have a support of the Shastras. They have support of the scriptures. Anything that is done with the intent of benefit to the society at large. Therefore, they may be all undertaken even without consulting the Shastras. So any such benevolent activity, any such a beneficial activity which is conducted, even if it is devoid of Shastra, no harm. Do it with the Shraddha. Do it with that spirit of benevolence. Do it with the spirit of doing good to others. Doing it with the selfless spirit, not for self-glorification, not for ostentation. So, such acts, the good ones, even if they are devoid of Shastras, no hassles, Sri Krishna says. But when they are devoid of Shastras, which is for no good to anyone, then that yajna is of no use. That ritual, that worship is of no use. But whatever act is harmful, it is prohibited by the scriptures, which are the infallible guides. So whatever is harmful, so these things are never covered in the Shastras. Only the beneficial ones, only the holy ones, which are good to others, they are covered in the Shastras. So giving of the food, giving of the gifts during such ceremonies, it is always, it is for doing good to others by way of conducting such practices, by way of conducting such functions. In a way, we are just providing a helping hand to somebody by way of giving gifts, by way of offering the food as the prasad of the deity for whom that particular ritual has been undertaken, that sacrifice has been undertaken. Mantras are external indications of the solemn determination and noble intents behind an action. Mantras are quite powerful for that matter. So any spiritual act, if it is done devoid of any mantras, without even chanting of Om, it has no spiritual relevance, no spiritual significance, and it loses its entire value then. If even a simple Om is not chanted while performing this kind of sacrificial act. Above all, if a holy undertaking be devoid of Shraddha, it is to be avoided as vainglorious and demonic. Sri Krishna says, at least, even if it is tamasic, doesn't matter, let that element of Shraddha be attached, that intense faith. Intense faith has to be there while performing such acts. If the intense faith is lacking while performing, then the tamasic type of people undertake the yajñas of that type. No faith, just for the sake of doing it. And that's how it becomes without any good for anyone. It doesn't yield good for anyone. It is just for the self-seeking, that's it. Austerity is a holy means for the human to emerge into the divine. Now, Sri Krishna is next going to tell us. Yes, Sri Krishna has told us about the type of sacrifices. Now, sacrifices is giving away. Now, according to the scriptures, there are injunctions of even the practices of giving away, even the practices of renunciation, even the practices of giving up a few things, the sacrifice, the yajna. So Sri Krishna told us in the last three verses that we read about the sattvic type of sacrifice, the rajasic type of sacrifice, and the tamasic type of sacrifice. Sattvic rajasic type of sacrifice is good for all, good for the performer, and good for all those who are attending that sacrifice. It is beneficial to the society as a whole. The rajasic, fine, it is at least good for only that person who is conducting it, because he has got a selfish motive doing that. He may not think good for others, but at least that person is thinking good for himself, good for herself. But tamasic is good for nothing. Neither the tamasic sacrifice results good for anyone else, nor it results any kind of benefit, it gives any kind of benefits to the performer of that type of sacrifice, which is devoid of Shraddha. That type of sacrifice which is not as per the scriptural injunctions. That sacrifice which is in which no food is distributed, no prasad is distributed. That type of sacrifice where no mantras are chanted, even Om is not chanted for that matter. And that type of sacrifice where no gifts are given, no alms are given. So ultimately, it is doing neither good to the performer of that act, nor it is doing good to anybody else. So that is the type of tamasic type of sacrifice, which is good for no one, neither the performer nor the others who have come to attain that function. So having told us about the three types of sacrifices, next Sri Krishna is going to tell us about the three types of tapas also. What kind of austerities are there in this on this spiritual path? So that now Sri Krishna is going to tell us how that also is threefold. Now, like the basic inherent nature of each being sattvic, being rajasic, being tamasic, each and everything in this creation, whether it is activity, whether it is sacrifice, whether it is austerity, is also threefold. Because all these activities are backed up by the threefold inherent nature and the threefold Shraddha that begets because of that threefold inherent nature. So that was our reading of the 13th Shloka of the 17th Adhyaya, Śraddhātraya Yoga, Vibhaga Yoga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur. Jai Ma. Jai Swami.